Good morning, St. Paul's. Hope you are well on this second Sunday of Lent. So this morning I want to share something with you that I read recently that ties into my message from last Sunday. And in my own mind, I struggled a bit last Sunday to find the right words to convey really what I wanted to convey. And in a nutshell, what I was attempting to do was differentiate, on the one hand, knowing things about God and knowing things about ourselves by reading the Scripture versus interacting with God as a living person in our faith. So knowing things about our faith versus engaging our faith as a living faith. So this follows on that. So this is what I read this week. Suppose a superstar of knowledge moves into your house as a boarder. With 3 PhDs after his name, he sits at your supper table each evening, dispensing information about nuclear physics, cyberspace, and psychoneuroimmunology, giving ultimate answers to every question that you ask. He doesn't lead you through his thinking process. He doesn't even involve you in it. He simply states the conclusions that he has reached. Now, we might find his conclusions interesting and even helpful, but the way he relates to us will not set us free, empower us, or make us feel good about ourselves. His wisdom will not liberate us. It will not invite us to growth or to life. Indeed, it will in the end make us feel inferior and dependent. That's exactly how we have treated Jesus. We have treated him like a person with 3 PhDs coming to tell us his conclusions. End of quote. So our scripture readings today from both Genesis and Mark's Gospel speak to our faith in terms of real conversation and interaction. In Genesis, God tells Abram about a covenant that he has with him and that there will be a multitude of descendants. In the Gospel reading, Jesus and Peter get into this disagreement about what Jesus foresees on their path ahead. In both of these instances, and in fact throughout the entirety of Scripture, we find people wrestling with God and wrestling with their trust in him. And remember, it's no accident, the name Israel literally means wrestle with God. The way of Christ is not found through conceptual information and conclusions, but rather through our wrestling and abiding with God. Said another way, if you're already settled on everything about God and you have no questions or doubts or engagement, I'm not sure that's an active faith. Do you think it is? If you've already just settled on conclusions, then how do you interact with another living being, living God, if it's like, well, I already know everything already? When I was a student in undergraduate school at Swanee, I had a number of friends. 2 of them were Chip Sloan and Giles Bateman. Both of them were my fraternity brothers. And in fact, both of them were my pledge brothers. We were in the same class. Now, Giles is from Waco, Texas. In college, he drove a banana yellow station wagon, and he was mostly interested in theater. He now works for Apple Computer. Chip is from Anderson, South Carolina. He drove a dull brown hatchback. He studied political science, and he is now an attorney in Charleston, South Carolina. So lots of similarities, both pledge brothers, both my friends. But Chip was also my roommate at Swanee, and we ate in the dining hall together frequently, and we spent much of our free time together. We kept in close touch after college. As you know, I married his sister, and now every single year we spend vacation time together. Which one of these two people do you think I actually know? Now, I know some things about Giles, and I'm fond of Giles. But we've not wrestled through disagreements, confided in one another through stressful seasons in our lives. We've not celebrated good news together. We've not mourned the loss of loved ones together. I have done and continue to do all of those things with Chip. Scripture identifies Jesus as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. You probably believe that. I hope you do. Why? Do you simply rely on a conclusion that somebody else has made about Jesus that doesn't lead you through their thinking process? Doesn't involve you? You just have the facts. Jesus is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Why? Remember what I said about the superstar of knowledge at the beginning, who moves into your house with you and regales you with all these interesting conclusions. He simply states conclusions, doesn't lead you through the thinking process or involve you. It's just the facts. Well, friends, life is not intended to be lived for the conclusions. When we do that, when we live simply from and for conclusions, this is the refrain that goes on in our head. I will be happy when X, Y, Z, because that's the conclusion. Once I have the conclusion, all is well. As I said on Ash Wednesday, our lives, our Christian faith, is constantly in process. They are not static things. Look in the mirror and you know this is true. You don't look the same as you look at yourself as you did 10 years ago. You're changing. So why is Jesus relevant in your life? Because this book that was written over 2,000 years ago, plus 2,000 plus years ago, by a number of different people just says so? Is that why he's relevant in your life? The information that we find in Scripture might be interesting and even helpful, as our superstar border is. But it will not set us free or empower us for living if we just live by conclusions and we don't engage Jesus as person in the process. Don't live your life based on somebody else's conclusions. Why is Jesus relevant in your life? Yours. Not why was he relevant in their life. Why is he relevant in your life? And the only way to find this out, to test it, if you will, is what we see in the entirety of Scripture. You wrestle. You wrestle with God. And you wrestle with God through disagreements. You confide in one another through stressful seasons in your life. You celebrate good news and victories together. And you mourn the loss of loved ones together. Friends, evangelism, this churchy word, which in a nutshell simply means sharing our faith of Jesus Christ with others, Sharing that faith is not helpful at all if we're just retweeting headlines of news and conclusions that we've not even read or come to ourselves. Evangelism, it seems to me, is more akin to showing someone your scars. Scars in which you take pride. Why? Why do you take pride in that scar? Because you've wrestled. Amen.